Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Blake Lively. What do these three women have in common other than kind of blondish hair? Well, I'm going to venture and say a certain 17-point list return to work condition. Have you ever wondered why that 17-point list came out of nowhere? You don't have to wonder anymore because if you put Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and Blake Lively together in a smoothie, yes, you come up with a 17-point list. And I'm going to tell you how. I want you to take a look at the picture on the screen and I want you to imagine what excuses you would come up with if you had to go see Beyonce in London, in another country, but you worked in the US, right? Just with her, breathe the same air. If you're a Beyonce fan, that is. I can understand why this wouldn't be appealing to you if you're not a Beyonce fan. But if you were, or replace Beyonce with your favorite person ever, say me, but maybe not me. Pick somebody else. But imagine what you would do. Imagine what you would say to your boss if you had one, to your manager if you had one, what you would come up with, the stories you would come up with to miss work in order to make your Beyonce meet and greet. And I want you to multiply that by 10. And then when you're done multiplying that by 10, I want you to multiply that by 100. And then when you're done, I want you to just, by infinity, multiply it by infinity, because I believe that is exactly what Blake Lively did in order to meet Beyonce. But you don't have to take my word for it. We're going to go through it step by step. Welcome to the shenanigans and grab a snack. We're going to be here a while.
F around and find out. 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 F around and find out.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of F Around and Find Out. I'm your host, Elsie. I missed you guys. I hope you missed me. And this video has taken me so long to make. I would say I've had the idea to make this video for about 3 months now, maybe 4. But every time I thought about making it, I was like, girl, are you crazy? That is crazy. But then the more this case goes on, the more, we learn about new things, the more we learn more about Blake Lively, which it seems like every day there's something new to learn about this woman that only reaffirms what we know about her or think about her. I'm like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Make the video. It makes sense. But I keep putting it off because I'm like, it is so wild and so out there. This idea that I have in my head that I'm going to share with you guys, that I always psych myself out of it and I always talk myself out of it. But today I was like, no, make the video, talk about it. If you're crazy, they'll let you know in the comments, but I cannot be crazy. It just makes too much sense for who Blake is. To the average person, to the regular person, we would never do this. We probably wouldn't go as far. But people come up with little lies, little excuses to get out of work. We know she lied to go to the Eras tour, but this lie, I believe, may have been her biggest and most ridiculous ones. And it continues to be a really big deal in the lawsuit as a whole. So we're going to go through why I have you all here. I hope you grabbed your snack. I'm not kidding. You're going to need it because I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. But don't worry, I came prepared. Everything is going to have visual accompaniments. So you're not going to be completely lost in the sauce. If you want to follow along, you can find these carousel of pictures I'm going through right now on Blake's Instagram. So let's get into it. I'm going to explain it everything to you in as much detail as I possibly can. And hopefully at the end of this video, we arrive at the same conclusions. Why don't we start things off by opening our Bibles to page 47 of 168, July 19th, 2023. And by our Bibles, obviously, I mean the timeline of relevant events. What happens on July 19th of 2023? Keep in mind, at this point, the SAG strike is ongoing. So on July 19th of 2023, Lively again reaches out to check in with Baldoni during the SAG strike to inquire about Baldoni's assembly cut and to request access to the dailies for a second time. Her first request was on June 13th of 2023. Baldoni, feeling it was too early to share, promises to send her cuts as soon as he is ready. Lively reluctantly paid nominal lip service to the notion that Baldoni, the film's director, was entitled to the time and space needed for his directorial cut, but continued to push. Baldoni did not assent to this request and said he was excited to show her when the time was right. That's important. This is June 19th. Excuse me. That's important. This is July 19th of 2023. We're going to jump to August 25th of 2023. As promised, Baldoni reaches back out to Lively and shares with her his favorite scenes, expressing his excitement to show her more in person when they resume production. A day later, Lively disregards the note about the film and instead thanks him for the matcha machine because he sent her a matcha machine for her birthday. He sends a nice birthday message, happy birthday, Blake, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going through all that. She responds to the birthday message, thank you so much for the matcha machine. That was very thoughtful. Justin replies, enjoy. She doesn't say anything about the movie, okay? She thanks him for the matcha machine, says nothing about the movie, reaches out. Lively's agent and manager reaches out to Jamie Heath, requesting that Baldoni fly to New York to show Lively the assembly cut of the film. He's not doing that. Heath responds that Baldoni is not available to travel at that time, but looks forward to showing her the rough cut when they resume production shortly. I promise I'm not wasting your time with nothing. I'm getting to the point, but in order to get there, I have to show you these foundational steps. Rome wasn't built in a day. We still don't know how many days it took to build Rome, but we know it wasn't a day. And I can't just jump to the point in this video. I have to bring you along. November 8th. In anticipation of the SAG strike ending soon, Heath reaches out to Lively's representative to share her shooting schedule, which was set to resume November 15th. For those of you following at home and taking notes, write that down. Shooting was set to resume November 15th of 2023. Now, for some reason, there was some sort of assumption that Blake was in London at this time, which I can tell you she was not yet in London. But her agents somehow tell them she's in London. We're going to get to it, and I'm going to prove to you she wasn't. They send the schedule, right? And then on the 27th, circled, shooting was supposed to begin. Somehow, on November 9th, let me zoom back out so we can all see that, Heath reaches out to Lively's lawyer about getting aligned, informing her that production was on the ground in New Jersey and eager to get started. I want you to keep in mind, a lot of these people working for production, working on the crew, the grip, lighting, camera guy, a lot of these people are not salary employees. Some people are making money hourly. Some people are making money only as long as the movie is filming. They don't just have like a, say, $3 million paycheck, regardless of how the movie does. A lot of these people were, for example, think of the catering people who are doing crafts. They don't get their money if they don't cook. They don't get their money if there's no production. After Jamie reaches out to Blake's lawyer and her people to let them know, hey, we're supposed to resume on the 15th. Today's the 9th, and production is on the ground. Everybody's excited to get back to work. They're ready to earn some money. They're ready to move the movie along, right? Long time no speak. I hope you're well. As you might know, we are back in Jersey prepping for the last 2 weeks. It was supposed to take 2 weeks. So another thing I want to bring up right now is when the guy who was supposed to be Justin's body double, the guy who opened his legs for Blake in the commercial, the margarita commercial, when he talks about something that was only supposed to take 2 weeks was taking longer and longer and longer, Exhibit A. We're preparing for the last 2 weeks, hoping that the strike would end, and here we are. With that, I'd love to have a chat with you about moving forward and get aligned the best we can at this stage. Can you give me a ring? Thank you so much. Jamie. The very day the SAG strike ends, Baldoni, the studio, and producers were eager to resume production. They're excited, right? They're in Jersey, they're ready to go. However, their plans were disrupted by an unexpected email from Lively's lawyer. Now, if you weren't paying attention before this time, this is where you need to lock in because we have arrived at our destination, people. The email contained what? A 17-point list of non negotiable conditions that Lively demanded to be met before her return to work. Interesting. The list, both in tone and content, appeared to insinuate or outright allege that Baldoni, Heath, and others had engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct during filming. Well, golly, what the hell? These claims were entirely unfounded in a deliberate attempt to insinuate improper conduct by Baldoni and Heath, forcing them to sign as is without objection if Lively was to resume filming. What? Yeah. So, from October, when Blake was asking for Justin to come in town to show her the movie, from the matcha machine, from the happy birthday wish, from the thank you response from the birthday wish, from Jamie reaching out to the lawyer and being like, hey, what's good? What's good? Everything is good. Good. From Jamie saying, hey, here's a schedule. We're set to return. Good. All of a sudden, when Jamie says production is on the ground, we're actually getting ready to start next week, this email comes. Why? I have a theory, and I'm going to tell you in just a second. Now, I do not think Blake and her team anticipated Jamie and Justin to be so eager to go back to work that they just were like, whatever, agree, let's get it on, right? Maybe I shouldn't say let's get it on. I don't want to get sued for insinuating anything sexual. I meant let's get to work, as in filming. Okay. Now, I want you to keep in mind that the calendar before tells us the shooting was supposed to start the 27th, right? The schedule, everything was beginning the 15th, but shooting specifically was going to start on the 27th. Now, do you know what was going to premiere on the 30th of November? Why don't I just show you? Why is the shooting date of November 27th so important to me, and why should you care? If you look down here, you're going to learn that the LA premiere of Beyonce's Renaissance film, not the tour, the film, premiered on Saturday, November 25th in LA, while the London event was held Thursday, November 30th. November 30th is only 3 days and is a work day after shooting was supposed to begin for It Ends With Us, right? So say you've been away from work for months, right? Your manager reaches out and tells you, hey, I know you've been away from work for months, but we're returning next month. Specifically, I want you to be at work on the 27th. Actually, I want you to be at work on the 15th, but you're going to be working specifically on the 27th, which is a Monday, right? But you have plans to be on the carpet. You have plans to spend the day with Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Only 3 days after you're supposed to be at work. And you know damn well, once you go to work on the 27th, there is no way you can leave on the 30th. It's not a weekend. You can't catch a jet and go and come back and be on set on Monday. It's a weekday. Specifically, it's such a weekday to the extent that it's a filming day, because if we will look again at the calendar, 27th, if you can see again, I'm going to zoom it in. 27th was shoot day 1, 28th was shoot day 2, 29th was shoot day 3, and would you look at that? The 30th was going to be shoot day 4. Again, it's a work day. You can't miss it. Therefore, if you're Blake Lively, if you are so sick in the head, if you cannot pass up this opportunity to spend the day with Taylor and Beyonce, so think about it. If you're Blake Lively and you've used up all your sick days, all your goodwill with your boss, all your goodwill with your manager, girl, you've used everything. What else could you do? If you know you've been away for work for months, you're finally returning, they're on the ground, people are excited, but you have to return to work on the 27th, the red circle. You have to return to work. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how many nannies can help you get your kids ready. It doesn't matter if, even if you had the particle accelerator from the Flash, even if you had a portal to jump through, you cannot make it to London on the 30th to be with Beyonce and Taylor and be seen and be back to work on time. It just, you can't do it. You can't miss work on Thursday. I mean, looking at this calendar, had the Renaissance film be on Friday, maybe this doesn't even happen because then she could leave set on Thursday and zoom right over to London. But no, because Blake Lively knew she had to return to work on the 27th, because she knew she wanted to be in London on the 30th, there was no way in hell she was returning to set, because once she gets to set, she would have to come up with another ridiculous excuse to leave for the weekend. So rather than coming up with a ridiculous excuse to leave for the weekend, why don't I just come up with a ridiculous excuse to not even go to work, right? Blake Lively got us into the 17-point list mess because she could not fathom the idea of not taking these pictures, of not wearing this outfit, of not taking this picture, of not having this carousel images, of not having this moment with Beyonce. But I wish it was just this. There was another social event this social butterfly could not miss. But I'll get to that in just a second. Jamie Heath, being as confused as all of us are, reached out to Sony the very next day, November 10th. So Sony's attorneys respond, "Hey Jamie, took a look at this following our conversation. No change in my mind from what we discussed last evening. Items 1 through 10, 15, and 17 highlighted are basically just yes, of course. Because keep in mind, Blake was really pretty much asking for things they already had on set. So they were like, yeah, you know what, girl, we got to get to work. Check, 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 check. Yes, 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 whatever. Right? They only had pause about a few of those points. November 10th, producer emails Jamie, producer emails Heath, and other members of production to notify them that Lively would be available starting December 5th. So they write her back. They agree, whatever, whatever, whatever. She's like, okay, good. I'm ready to come back on the 5th. Why is that important? Well, if you're going to see Beyonce on the 30th, you need a couple of days to recover from seeing Beyonce. It's not a concert, but it's still being around Beyonce. The lady takes up a lot of, space. It's a lot of energy to be around Beyonce, apparently. She's going to spend some time in London because, again, her husband is filming Deadpool at this point. So she says, yeah, I'll be back December 5th. Just keep that date in your mind. Now, November 11th, Production Council response seeking clarification and stating, wher, Sony, and production respectively acknowledge that your client has concerns regarding safety, professionalism, and workplace culture. Although our perspective differs in many aspects, ensuring a safe environment for all involved is paramount, irrespective of differing viewpoints. So they send that email, and following here, as you can see, I hope you can still see, okay, great, is agreed. So they agreed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 is agreed, and it's like they want clarification on what exactly you're talking about, but like agreed. 8 agreed, 9 agreed, 10 agreed, 11 they agreed with some notes, 12 they agree with notes, 13 agreed, 14 agreed, 15, 16 agree with notes, 17 is agreed, right? November 11th, while working through Lively's protective letter for her return to work, wher counsel seeking to keep the production on track reaches out to Lively's lawyer, agent, and manager to send over the requested production material, a one-liner, schedule, new script pages, and additionally, the wher counsel sought to coordinate a time for Lively to view the rough cut as promised, all in effort to maintain production progress. So production is like, if we have to go from the 27th to the 5th, it's not that big of a deal. Fine. You can come back to work on the 5th, right? Guess again. Sends this email, dear blank, in an effort to keep us on track, blah blah blah, we're giving you all the stuff your client wants. If you want to pause to read, you can. But pretty much they're saying, yeah, whatever Blake wants, we're giving it to her. We agreed to that shit she wanted. She's getting her script, all that. We need her back to work December 5th, right? So after some back and forth with Lively's counsel, Lively's camps respond made it clear that the list was not open for negotiation. As in the part where they wrote the notes, they're like, no, we don't care for your notes. Just say you agree. And they're like, okay, we have stipulations. So they come back with point 14, 15, and 16. This is much clearer so we can read. The list we provided was not intended as a starting point for negotiation. Rather, it is a set of protections that need to be in place in order for our client to return to work. On the 15th, in light of learning that Lively would not be available for a November shoot, production reworked the schedule to begin in December instead. Keep in mind, December 5th, right? Heath shared the director's notes, the updated schedule, and notes regarding the rough cut with Lively's agent. November 22nd, despite working around the clock to meet the December 11th shoot date, Lively was ultimately unavailable, and production was once again rescheduled to start in January. Production was expected to start in November and be done before the Christmas break, but then they moved it around to start December 5th. Then it went to December 11th, but now, fuck December. We're not starting until January, right? The production office was notified, shut down, and set to return mid-January. Now I have you here. If you're wondering why Blake could not accept the return to work on December 5th or 11th, she had other commitments. What commitments might those be? Well, let's start with the caption. Then we're going to look at the date, right? And keep in mind, she posted the pictures on the 17th, but the birthday party was a day or two before, right? So we have somehow she's even better in real life. Happy birthday to the one and only. One and only who? The Swifties are typing right now. Of course, Taylor Swift, her birthday is in December, of course. Well, let's look through the pictures because as we can see, of course, Taylor, Gigi, Blake. But she's supposed to be at work, right? So not at work, but at a birthday party. Okay. And before I forget, as far as the November dates and Blake's lawyers and representatives telling Justin and Wayfair that she is in London and out of town, I beg to freaking differ. Because on November 12th, 2023, this picture was posted by Van City Reynolds. And if you look at the red circle in your top right corner, the person sitting there is Blake with a very weird caption about her being Ryan's boyfriend. Again, I'm not here for that. But we're just going to look at the date and we're going to look at who is actually in the picture with them. That happens to be their trainer, body shaming, I'm snitching because he asked about your weight, Don Sardine, him. That's him in the picture. Now, why would Don Sardine be posting a picture on November 13th of 2023 on his page with New York as the destination? Why would Ryan Reynolds, November 14th, be at a speaking engagement at Autodesk University? And why would Blake be in the gym with the Don Sardine and Ryan Reynolds while telling production she's in London when she is in New York City? But that's neither here nor there. I could give two shits about that. December 28th, we have the fateful apartment meeting because Lively emails Baldoni to request a meeting at her apartment with him and the team ahead of the start of production on January 4th, 2023. Keep in mind, Blake hasn't had any contact with Justin or Jamie since before the strike. So we're talking about June, July. Well, July, he messaged her about the birthday in August and the matcha machine. She thanked him. Everything was cool. Now you want to see me at your apartment in December? Okay, cool. Let's see what happens. Well, we already know, but let's just see. Let's pretend we don't know, right? She sends this message. Hey, I hope you and your family had a nice holiday. How dare you? Just how dare you? Would love to set the time for a meeting before we start production. We'll be back in town January 4th. Does 3 p.m. work? We'll host in Tribeca. Happy to have just you. Why did you want just him to come? So the ambush could have been one for the ages with no record of it. Interesting. Not sure if Jamie will be on set, but he's welcome. We can also have the whole team, blank and blank you prefer. Please let me know on all. So the options were either him or just him and Jamie or him and everybody. Which one is it? Like you cannot even make up your mind on who you wanted to see. What was this meeting really supposed to be about? Because you don't go from I'm happy to have just you, but then you can bring Jamie, but then you can bring Elsie, but then you can bring A, B, and C and D and F person. How do we get there? Nonetheless, January 4th, Baldoni, Heath, a Sony executive, a producer, everybody and their mama show up to the apartment. We know this is when Ryan goes off. Right, I'm going to jump because we know this. I'm not going to go over this again because everybody knows. Reynolds then berated Baldoni, demanding Baldoni apologizes to Lively for actions that had either never occurred or had been grossly mischaracterized. Baldoni resisted apologizing for things he had not done, which further enraged Reynolds. Everyone, including the new producer Lively, had requested to join the production, and the Sony representatives left the meeting in shock. You don't say. The new A-list producer remarked that in their 40-year career, they had never seen anyone spoken to in such a manner during a meeting. We already know this. This part always infuriates me, so I have no interest in belaboring this point. And then we jump to a very, very bizarre set of dates because on January 5th through February 19th, Lively admits filming concluded without any further grievances. Well, maybe because there were no grievances at all in the beginning to start. But as stupid as this sounds, as minuscule and as what the fuck are you talking about, Elsie, as this sounds, I say all this to say, the reason Blake Lively pulled that 17-point return to work list, whatever you want to call it, out of her ass in the month of November. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was purely because she had to go to London, because she had to be here. The reason Blake Lively came up with that 17-point list of things is because she had to go to London to see Renaissance film, not even the tour, the film. And Taylor was in attendance and Beyonce was in attendance, and she could not pass up an opportunity to take a picture and write a caption. I know it sounds ridiculous and I know it sounds stupid, and it's like, no, there has to be more to it. Why? Why should there be more to it? There's nothing in the Bible that says there has to be more to it. This is Blake Lively we're dealing with. That is the point we all have to come to, is that she doesn't need a lot to go off on. She just has to have an idea in her head and execute to perfection, and she did. It seems ridiculous because it is. It seems dumb because it is. It seems what the heck because it is what the heck. Sometimes the truth is as simple as that. I'm telling you, there is no better reasoning other than she just didn't have a better excuse. She couldn't say her kids were any more sick than she's already claimed. She couldn't say she was any more sick than she'd already claimed. So delay. Pretend to be in shambles until you can no more. And yeah, when all else fails, throw a 17-point list at your coworker and your boss and tell them to sign it before you return to work. And even after they sign it, because they signed it a little too quickly, just tell them, yeah, I'm not ready to come back. In conclusion, yeah, Blake Lively needed to refuel her social battery, and that's why we're here. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, it's just as simple as that. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know if you find it fascinating. Let me know if you find it disturbing and scary, because I do. And thank you. I appreciate you for being here. Thanks for taking the time. Again, please leave all your thoughts in the comments. Don't be shy. Make sure to like, though, subscribe, share, spread the word. Let's see what other people think. And I'll see you guys again on the next one. But it's really as simple as that. The girl had to go to London to see Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.